Hey everybody, before we get started today, I want to take just a quick moment to talk to you about Into the AM. Into the AM is a clothing company from Southern California, and they produce all manner of different clothing, but what I appreciate from them are these great looking and great fitting graphic t-shirts. As you can probably tell from looking at me, I kind of enjoy that dwarf life where I'm a little short and probably broader than I would really like to be, which means finding t-shirts that fit me in my shape is a challenge, but not with Into the AM. At the Into the AM website, they have a sizing chart that hooked me up and got me a shirt that feels and looks great. The Into the AM website has great options for men and women of all sizes, including tees, joggers, hoodies, and more, and right now they're running a bundle deal. 3 basic tees for $49.95 or 3 graphic tees for $60. And if you want to save even more, make sure you use the link included in the description of this video to get 10% off everything on their site. So go there now to intotheam.com. Alright, so let's get to today's topic, which is all about divine spellcasters who do not worship a deity. So, for example, if we think about sorcerers, oracles, and witches, they all have ways in which they can access and cast spells from the divine spell list, but unlike, say, a cleric, they don't necessarily have to worship a deity at all. Their abilities are coming from a bloodline, from a mystery, from a pact, from some other source that may only have a tangential relationship to a deity. The place where I see this the most often is going to be with sorcerers, so I'm mostly going to use them as the description here, but I believe the same information is going to apply if you play one of those other classes like a witch or an oracle. So, for example, if you are a diabolic bloodline sorcerer, being part of the diabolic bloodline means you have a natural talent for casting spells. It's in your blood, it's from your bloodline. And the diabolic bloodline says you get these powers from some part of your ancestry. Maybe you had a grandparent who struck a deal with a devil, and the long-lasting taint of that is still in your blood, and that's where you're getting your magical abilities. And as a diabolic bloodline sorcerer, you cast your spells from the divine spell list. But because you are getting your abilities from this source that you were born into, you had no control over, you don't necessarily have to worship any deity. And you definitely don't have to worship the same deity that may or may not be related to whatever is the source of your bloodline or mystery or pact powers. Now, for the most part, this isn't going to be a big deal. You cast your spells just like anybody else, you just take them from your divine spell list, but there are a few divine spells that have a special notation that we need to take a look at. So, for example, if we look at Divine Lance, a fairly common cantrip for divine spellcasters, the second sentence says, "You cannot cast this spell if you don't have a deity or if your deity is true neutral." So what does this mean for the sorcerer bloodline, the sorcerer with diabolic bloodline, who doesn't worship a deity? Well, what this means for that character is they don't get to cast Divine Lance. Pathfinder is very much a system where you do what the effect or the description says. Here it says you can't cast it if you don't have a deity. So if you don't have a deity, having a deity meaning worship a deity, then you cannot cast a spell. Most of these spells that have this restriction are dealing with alignment. They're trying to figure out if you are dealing or protecting against certain types of damage that are related to the 4 alignment pieces. So this is something that can strike some people a little odd. They might say, well, if all of my other spells are coming from this taint of Asmodeus, then why wouldn't I be able to just cast this spell using the same power from Asmodeus? And the answer to that is simply because that's not the way it's written. I mean, it clearly says it has to be a deity that you follow. It has to be your deity. So in that case, Diabolic Sorcerer, powers coming from an ancient pact with Asmodeus, but doesn't worship anybody, can't cast these spells. Now, let's take a look at another situation where we take that same example, Diabolic Bloodline Sorcerer, and they worship Caden Kalian. In that case, they would be able to cast Divine Lance, and they would do so not with lawful damage or evil damage, because their bloodline's backstory of being associated with Asmodeus. They would cast their spells according to the god they worship, Caden Kalian, who is a chaotic good deity, and therefore they would choose either chaotic damage or good damage. So that in a nutshell is how it works for sorcerers, witches, oracles, any of these cases where a class allows you to cast spells from the divine spell list, but you yourself do not worship a deity, then you cannot cast these spells like Divine Lance that specifically say you need to follow a deity. And if you do follow a deity, you cast the spells according to that deity, not according to any relationship between a deity and the pact, the mystery, the bloodline that's the source of your magical powers. So that's it for today. If you have any questions about this, please leave those in the comments. If you have any suggestions for future rule reminders, please leave those in the comments as well. And as always, I want to take a quick moment to say thank you to everybody out there who supports me, whether that be by clicking the like button, subscribing to the channel, subscribing to the Patreon, clicking that link and going to Into the AM and buying a t-shirt or 2 or 3. I greatly appreciate everything you folks do to support me in this channel. And as always, thanks for watching, take care, and happy gaming.